so very much for tuning in to the Odd Pod. That's right, we actually have a name for once, guys.
Hooray.
Really?
Wow.
Hold on, wait, stop. Can we all thank Rob? Let's thank Robbie. So that was wonderful. Thank you, Robbie. Yes, that was wonderful. Jesus Christ. Not even like, yeah, awesome. Just, yay. You know? Jesus.
By the hour.
But yes, we finally have a name. It took us a little while, but we finally decided on the Odd Pod because, well, it was a bit odd after we went back and listened to it, I would say. Right, guys?
Yeah.
I'll say.
That's a good description.
What was that, Red?
I'll say.
Oh, I thought you said also. I'm like, also what, young man? Guys, everybody, seriously, thank you so much for swinging back in. My name is Stacy Kruger. Guys, let's head down the room.
I am Red Hazard.
Casually challenged, talking over people.
I'm Robbie. Hello.
And I'm Undead. How's it going?
See, he's trying to make up for his lack of enthusiasm about the name. He's like, no, I'm Robbie. Not just, instead of just, I'm Robbie, hi.
It's not my fault. I'm in the future.
Jesus. Yeah, I suppose it's like, what, about midnight for you right now?
It's like 11:05.
Ish.
We need to do these earlier.
No,
Well,
it's
how-
fine. I go to bed like between 1 and 2 a.m., so...
Okay, well, at least it isn't too bad for you. I would say, well, the problem is, we have to, this is what I feel bad, because everybody has to be like, well, let's bounce around Stacy, because I stream until 4 p.m. here, you know? And then I stretch my legs for about a half an hour, and then we're like, okay, time to do a podcast now, you know? I feel bad you guys have to deal with me.
I don't feel bad.
Okay, well, then to hell with you.
I don't feel that either.
Now, Casual, I know you actually had something you wanted to open up the show with, right?
Well, it's somewhat topical as you hear this podcast, if you hear it like very, very near to its release. But it's about video games in general, sort of, and how nudity in games has always been a hot button issue. You know, oh, nudity, and every time a game comes out.
Well, we can remember back when...
yeah.
Shush, don't you even start going there already. But we can remember back when, what was it? The Atari with, what was it?
Custer's Last Stand.
Yes, Custer's Last Stand, where you had to walk up naked with a heart on and go fuck Pocahontas. You know?
What?
And you know, there's been the mods and the secret codes for Tomb Raider, you know, back when she still had
the
pointy
nude code.
boobs.
Which didn't exist, and I was pissed.
Exactly.
I
And
tried
then-
so hard to see those polygon tatas.
I think we all did.
I just made her swim in the pool, so it zoomed in close to her ass.
Oh, God. You know, here's the problem. We're sitting here mashing our controller, holding upside down, like pushing X while turning it on to get all these secret things, and Rob's just like, hey, let's do the common sense thing. Swim and look at the ass. You know, we need to start thinking like Robbie and using common sense here.
I'm a butt man, not a boobs man.
So, with this continually, like for almost, like you said, since Atari days, it's always been an issue. And it's usually been an issue that has been, you know, hidden by the developers. You know, they don't actually put anything in.
Yeah.
Hot coffee notwithstanding.
Yeah, I love that one.
But then this game just came out, made by a company that did an MMO also with the same theme, called Conan Exiles. And one of the first things that you can do in the game is set nudity to none, partial, or full. And when it says full, there are physics mechanics behind it for dongs and balls now.
And don't forget the tatas.
Well, I mean, yeah, but
Can't forget about the bow jiggle.
You're just
jiggle
like, well,
physics have been around for a while,
Well,
but this
true, but-
game just, like, suddenly out of nowhere, a developer decided, hey, here it is. And it's not secret, it's not hidden, it's just literally right in your face. What happened?
here's my favorite part. When we brought it up here just to kind of say what we're thinking about talking about, Robbie had no idea what game we were talking about until I said, oh, the Dong game. And he's like, oh, that one, yeah.
I have to wonder whose job it was to program the dong physics.
Right? I'd probably someone like you, really, let's face it.
Well, yeah. I mean, if you had to do that, you'd have to love your job.
I'd say he was just he's sitting in the mirror just dangling it back and forth like, oh, need to give it a little bit more jiggle in that physics.
All the research required.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I was about to say. Like, do they research that, or do they go like, physics where it's unrealistic?
The developer was just like, Jeff, get over here to my desk for a minute.
Shake it side to side, now up and down. Now do some jumping jacks.
Helicopter for me. Come on, helicopter.
I'm actually I wouldn't be surprised if they would put that in as an emote.
Oh my god, I just realized /dance in that game.
Oh no.
That's what I mean.
I have to buy it now. I wasn't going to buy this game at first, but now I have to. Just to do the dance with the dong along, just flanging, you know? But, sadly enough, actually, that kind of pointed out your point, Casual, that they're going balls to the wall, no pun intended, with the nudity. And here's Robbie, the only way he actually recognized the game was by saying the dong game. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's kind of the funny thing is you would think the media would be all over this. I mean, they've been all over that sex and violence in games for years, and this game comes out and there's pretty much nothing. I mean, you see it on Twitch.
Yeah, yeah.
But that's in our wheelhouse. We are gamers. We watch Twitch. But you don't see news reports about it. You don't see. So it makes me wonder, are people finally saying we don't care, or is this just not that popular of a game? Or what happened?
I think there is a certain level of desensitization. I mean,
Say desanitization.
Shut up. I know I stuttered. But yeah, there's got to be a certain level of people just going, okay, we're getting used to it. It's just a dong and happens. But at the same time, there's always even that sect of people going, oh my God, penis.
Yeah, exactly.
Like I don't know why it's not getting a huge uproar, because this is not that small of a game. I've seen a lot of people jump onto the bandwagon. I'm watching some of my buddies and my favorite streamers stream it and love it,
As I brought up with before we started, a big game that everyone had a massive issue with was Rust.
Oh God, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Like, everybody fought with the developers to get the choice of turning it on or off for a couple of months.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, Conan Exiles comes out, and everyone's like, oh, okay, that's cool.
Now, since it is Conan, and if you've ever seen the movies or read any of the comics or the books, is that the difference? Is it, it's Conan, of course.
I suppose the barbarian, maybe, yeah. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
Can you make him look like Arnold Schwarzenegger?
Oh, no.
Yeah, you actually probably could.
Don't tell me this, please. I'll be forced to buy the game then.
I'm pretty sure the character customization is pretty extensive.
Can we make him look like Hulk Hogan? And
to the point that you can actually edit the size of the penis.
Okay, so we can make him really look like Hulk Hogan then.
You can edit the size of the genitals.
So we can make it look like you could club a baby seal with it?
I don't know about that, but probably something.
If anybody's ever seen the Hogan sex tape, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
I'd like to point out that last time it was Robbie who brought it up, and this time it was Stacy.
I'm sorry!
And if you're playing along with the drinking game on how long it takes us to talk about dicks, it started immediately.
Oh, no, I lost. Anyway, but I think part of the reason why people aren't in such an uproar over it is the fact that you actually have the option to go, okay, just a real short loincloth or full loincloth. I have a funny feeling it's got to be that is the fact that you have the option. My question is, since I've never played it, when you're actually playing the game and it's a multiplayer game, there's no single player, correct?
No, it's one of those games that has single player, but it's like your own server. Like it starts on your computer and you can let people on or not.
Okay, sounds good.
But I think I know where you're going, and it is server based. So like whatever the server is set to is the maximum level that you will be able to see. So if whoever's hosting the server sets it to full, then you can set your personal level to full, and you will see all the dungers that people want to have.
Okay, I was about to say, because if you're playing on a public server and you set it to full loincloth where no nudity whatsoever, do you see other people's dongers too? Yeah, I mean?
No, it's set to your own personal, enjoyment level or whatever.
Then that's a huge difference, is the fact that in Rust, because we brought up the comparison, because that's obvious, a very obvious comparison here. In Rust, no matter what, there was no choice to turn it on or off. It was either, it was just there. Where this, you have the choice. Yeah, I mean?
Yeah. With Rust, I guess the idea was you're stranded on a desert island, so you don't really have any clothes left.
No, it's no. I usually spawn inside of like a forest around a whole bunch of weird, huge domes. I don't know that. I didn't make it more than a week in Rust before I walked away with my hands still in the air after getting sniped and my building torn down 30 times in a week.
Yeah, that's the problem with those survival games in general is, and let me tell you, I have actually played Conan, and it is harsh.
Really?
Like you can die within a couple hours just of not being able to find, resources and stuff. It's another survival game. And that brings me to the question of survival games in general. Like, we have all of these survival games. We've got Daisy and like you said, Rust, and I thought that survival games were on a downswing. Like, I thought people were sick of them, and here we are with Conan Exiles.
Well, I think what a lot of people's issues with survival games is Rust and Daisy killed it, in my opinion, because they turned into a survival to, there's a person, let's go kill them just because. Or games like Daisy, that's basically been in beta for, 2-3 years now?
Isn't Rust still technically in beta too?
Yeah.
I was going to say, I thought Rust was still an early access.
Well, let's just face it, Gary, what do you expect? That's all I'm saying, man.
I'd like to preface that Stacy has a very massive hate for Gary.
Yeah, when you're in the Linux community, you tend to dislike that cut. I'm just throwing it out there, okay? You're just kind of where is he? His general direction, northwest? Okay, we'll throw the middle finger up in the air in that direction. It's just, the guy is just rude. That's all my problem is with him. But I'm throwing that aside right now and just going, when you have a game in beta that long, there's something wrong with it, but that's just me.
Yeah.
Well, being in beta means you can use that as a get out of jail card in case there's glitches or bugs.
Oh, yeah.
Very true.
Well, yeah, but eventually you have to full release your game, not Star Frontier notwithstanding.
Are you sure you have to
Star
fully release
Citizen?
it? I mean, look how many games in the past have just kind of sat in beta for a while and then just kind of magically floated away into Forgotten Land. Yeah, I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, do you think that something like Rust is just going to eventually go, you know what, we're tired of it, we're just going to stop updating it, goodbye?
I would say, despite your own opinions on Gary,
like I said, I'm trying to throw that all aside.
I would honestly say no, because look at Gary's mod. It's still being updated with content and patches and stuff.
Very true.
So, but here's the other question on that. Do we need the games to ever come out of beta? I mean, if it's a really good game, if it's a game that everybody's enjoying and it continues to put out new content, yes, we want it to be out of alpha and beta, but do we ever want it to stop producing content?
I would say no. You never want to stop producing content because you always want to enjoy the game more and more and more. Yeah, I mean? And just like, great example, World of Warcraft. Do you ever want WoW to stop putting out new quests and new content so you can keep on playing if you're a WoW player? No, absolutely not. You know, you always want to enjoy more WoW. You never want to go, well, that was a great run for how many friggin' years now? Well, time to call it. No, you want to have, give me more raids, you sons of bitches. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, that's what the big uproar with the new expansion Legion was. Is they were slow releasing the raids and stuff like that, and people were losing their shit because it took them almost 2-3 solid months to get Suramar raid out.
Yeah, that's the thing.
I mean,
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to step over you. Go ahead, Casual.
Well, I was just going to say, when the new content comes out, people eat it immediately.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so I get the frustration, and I even had the same frustration with a very modern game, Hitman, the latest Hitman game.
They're still making those?
Yeah, the latest one is really great, but it literally took them a year to release all the content for it. And when I say all the content, what I'm mostly talking about is 6 maps.
Yeah.
And in those maps, they continue to release new targets. Every week since its initial release, they have released content for that game. Now, they still only have 6 maps, but the maps are pretty big. And it's fun. And at first, having not played it, I was incensed. I was terribly incensed, frustrated beyond belief, that they were going to nickel and dime us for 6 maps.
Mm-hmm.
$60. I think it was like, $10 a map, basically.
Mm-hmm.
But then I bought it on sale a year later, and I discovered I was wrong. Like, there is so much content to that game. It's just... And I wonder if maybe we should see a switch. Like, maybe we should start going towards monthly releases and stuff.
Well, that's my question. Is it to artificially drag out the hype of a game by, here comes more now, let's get more people to buy it? Or is it just truly, in their case, was it truly just because they couldn't and they just weren't able to get it finished? Yeah, I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It kind of worked for Minecraft for a while. I don't know if it's as hyped as it was back then now.
There's barely any hype when new content comes out.
Yeah. I remember the last big one I remember was Frostburn, and I don't remember any hype for that.
Well, I do have to say that my son loses his minds both my boys lose their minds every time that something new. Dad, they have bears? Yes, son. Yes, they have bears. Dude, it's so cool. Like, okay, son, thank you.
I don't know how many people actually play unmodded Minecraft these days.
I don't know. Like, since I'm from the modded community, I don't know. I plan on doing a playthrough of unmodded just because, but I don't know if I can handle it. Just because it's so spoiled.
There are numerous broadcasters who literally only play vanilla, and they've been playing it for over 3 years.
Jesus.
Oh, damn. It's like with like Better Twitch TV. I don't remember what's part of Better Twitch TV and what's actually the old Twitch.
Yeah.
I had the same problem. And by the way, in case you're wondering what we're talking about, Twitch.tv is a website which we all watch streams across. Some of us broadcast across. And Better Twitch TV is a third-party add-on for the website. It's an extension through your browser, and it enhances certain things. Like it could change how chat looks. It could change the color of the website itself.
Change the streamer's penis size.
Wait, really? Well, hell, man, where's that option at?
I turned that all the way down, guys.
That's why it's so small. Damn it! But no, but seriously, it's a great little thing. Well, excuse me, I'm sorry. I'm all here, guys. Go ahead, take over for me. I gotta hack my lungs out.
Rabble. Filling
but
noise.
Yeah, with a lot of games, monthly releases are doable, definitely.
Yeah, like drip feeding them.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
Because at the same time, you don't want to just drown your player base in your game and then go, oh wait, we still have more stuff to add.
Oh, absolutely.
It's better to take your time throughout like the next few months to drip, as Robbie said, drip feed your player base.
And I think it also goes back to what Casual was saying. Is it better? In some instances, yes. There's some times where you're like, okay, we get it. You're just dragging this out. But I do have to agree with Casual. Maybe this is the new trend that gaming has to go to just to keep people interested, because it's the tendency, as Casual pointed out, that people will play through all the content real fast just to burn themselves out real fast, and that's it, right?
Mm-hmm.
It also leads into the end of the road for that business model is microtransactions.
Yeah.
Am I the only person who refuses to buy something if it's a microtransaction?
The only microtransaction I have ever really invested in is one-time fees on certain games on my phone. And the only fee that I'm paying is the one that removes ads.
Yep.
I'm guilty of that once when it comes to a phone. I take it back. You know what? I'm absolutely guilty of it when it came to Subway Surfer. It was just to get rid of the friggin' ads and stuff like that. That was it. And then also with WoW, I'm totally guilty of buying pets.
Oh, come on, though. They're so cute.
They are. Just look at the little thing. Just all the bear and oh my god, the little panda, the little monk that follows you around and karate chops shit.
I was the guilty one of buying mounts.
Shh. We're not going to talk about mounts, okay?
I bought one mount, and I was extremely disappointed in it.
Really? I haven't been disappointed in any of my mounts. I love my crest mount.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have turned into WoW Anonymous.
That's what it's about, too, man.
Hi, my name is Undead, and I'm addicted to WoW.
Hi, my name is Stacy Kruger, and I'm addicted to buying mounts and pets on World of Warcraft.
Hi, my name is Casually Challenged, and I am WoW free for 3 months.
I'm just imagining that guy popping up and going, "Wow!"
I hate you so much, Robbie.
Then you have one of the 10 people on Earth who have never played WoW.
Don't start. Trust me. Don't ever start.
It's a great experience, but the problem is when you go to walk away, it's terrible. It hurts because you're just like, but I want to play, but it's boring now. But I want to play, but it's boring now, you know?
But I still need to raid next Ramus.
My experience with WoW and quitting has been, I loved it at first, but I also had friends I was playing with.
Yeah.
And that's where you have to step back and say, okay, my friends all left, so why am I playing?
That's exactly what it was for me, too. You know, and excuse me, I apologize. I used to have a guild, you know, it was a very nice guild. It was just a small little family guild, you know, maybe 10 of us that were active all the time, but we'd always do runs together, stuff like that. When once they left to go play other games or just left to go do real life shit, it was just me and my friend Kyra, and we're kind of going, what's the friggin' point? Why do we keep doing this to ourselves? You know, it just got to be boring where we just kept doing the same old, what the hell was it? The same old, mount runs, the same old grinds for rare trinkets and stuff like that over and over and over again. That was it. And it's like, why are we doing this? We're just doing dailies and that's it? It just got sad, you know?
Yeah.
And that also goes into another point is there anything Blizzard can do to stop the decline?
Okay. There's a
the
few
inevitable
things.
Decline.
Exactly. No matter what, it's going to die eventually. Everything dies, no matter what.
Yep.
But how is it? What death is it going to die? Is the question. Is it going to be a very graceful death where it's just eventually it all just declines and everybody's like, okay, you know, we just kind of walk away from it very nicely, or is it one day Blizzard's going to go, you know what, we're tired of supporting this, shutting down the servers, kind of like they did with the Matrix. You know?
Is it going out with a bang or a whimper?
Exactly.
It's Zachary.
English.
Just go with the Stacyisms, okay? But I want to say one thing they could do, which they don't want to. I'm both in favor and against this, but not private servers, but not ancient servers. What's this called?
Legacy servers.
Legacy servers. Thank you. Legacy servers is one thing they could do, but would it be worth it for Blizzard? And that's my question. Would it bring new people back and bring new people in, or bring old people back and get them to stay? That's my question.
I don't think that. I don't think they have to worry about it. Blizzard has a track record for. I mean, and I'm not even counting the Activision side of things.
Yeah.
Because they merged with Activision. Personally, I think Blizzard bought Activision out. But Blizzard's quality control, no matter what people may think of WoW, is so high that when they finally do release something new, which is admittedly rare, Overwatch, after how many years of the last new game, they are so aware of how to make games and how to make them highly polished and good that whatever happens to World of Warcraft, and it is inevitable that it's going to go down, they're not going to worry about it. They're going to already be on their next project and planning the project after that. And in their particular case, I don't see them caring.
Yeah. I actually wouldn't be surprised if they're already working on another game just to more than likely kill WoW off.
Do you think they could ever have another IP as big as WoW?
Oh, no.
Absolutely.
You really think so? You really think that Overwatch could take over WoW?
No, not Overwatch. Not Overwatch. It'll be something new. There's been rumors for a long time of a StarCraft MMO.
Yeah.
Now
I've heard about that, but it's always seemed like it's never going to happen. You know?
And that's something else. You know, Blizzard, if they don't think it's going to work, they'll cancel it when it's nearly done. But if they make the next MMO, you know, if they do their next MMO in-house, I'm pretty sure it's going to be the WoW killer, and it won't matter because it's their own.
Yeah. Well, even MMOs like WildStar, that when that came out, that was hyped to shit. And
I forgot about WildStar.
A whole bunch of streamers and YouTubers were like, "Oh yeah, come play this with me." And then once their first expansion came out, everyone was just like, "Oh, this is shit. Why are we playing this? And why are we telling our player base to play this with us?" It's one of those things that they go from WoW to other MMOs back to WoW because nothing can actually stand the test of time up against WoW. Because, I mean, the game's been out since 2001.
Yeah, I was going to say it's...
I've been playing since 6 months after release of that game. Believe me, it's weathered me.
it was announced on September 2nd. It was released November 23rd, 2004. But the idea of it has been around since 2001.
Mm-hmm.
And people just keep building these MMOs thinking, oh yeah, we're going to be the next WoW killer. No, you're not. No matter how big you think you're going to get, WoW is always going to end up either stealing your player base with new content, or it's going to be a big feud.
Yeah, they hype themselves up and then you never hear from them again.
Yeah. WildStar being the biggest one, because I do believe they took like a 2-year hiatus after they launched it.
That's
2 years,
that's not
really?
something you can do with an MMO.
Exactly.
That's something World of Warcraft has, learned, and they release what, an expansion every 2 years?
2 to 3 years, yeah.
Yeah. But in between that time, they release updates, and it adds a new raid boss or a new dungeon or something like that. And that's part of how they've continued so long, is that they know how the MMO works at a core level.
They update constantly, and they keep their player base intrigued with what's coming. and what's to come.
Excuse me. I don't know, man.
There's also those fans who want Blizzard to revisit normal Warcraft.
That I've heard
one of them.
about. I was never a huge fan of the game style, but I loved the lore and I loved watching people play it. You know what I mean? Even to this day.
But at this point, because Warcraft was fairly innovative-ish when it first came out, and I'm talking about the original RTS. Mm-hmm. And then when Warcraft 2 and 3 came out, they each did something new and different. But the lore, like Stacy was saying, has continued throughout. Mm-hmm. Like, from the very first game to whatever the latest expansion is for World of Warcraft, it's all been connected. So could they do Warcraft 4 at this point?
I would love it. I mean, even though I don't like those type of games, I would love it just because I would love to see a fan service, just pure fan service.
Yeah.
And I would love to see what they could do with it.
One thing that I find that's a big thing is they need, and it's actually a big topic currently in the private server community for World of Warcraft, is legacy servers that cater to the original player base. Back in World of Warcraft, the Burning Crusade, the Wrath of the Lich King, those are the three main servers that you see when you look for a private server.
Yep. And honestly, I'm sorry, go ahead. I didn't mean to step on you.
I was just going to add is that most of them have all of the old content, and then they usually stop at the patch 3.3.5, which is apparently the patch that everyone enjoyed. I do believe that was the patch just before they released Cataclysm.
Oh, oh God, the Azeroth killer. I remember when that came out. You're just like, what happened? This was beautiful. It was cool because there's something new and you go explore it and everything. But after about a half an hour, you're like, I explored everything. I want the pretty back. What the hell's going on here? You know?
Well, that's what Legion, the newest expansion, did for me when I played it when Legion dropped. Is it went from I played back in Wrath, and then I stopped playing for about 3-4 years, and then I come back, and then I stopped playing for another year or two, and I come back as soon as Legion drops, and it's like, what happened to my scourge infested world? And now the storyline doesn't make sense. And
some would argue that started with the very second expansion first expansion they did with Burning Crusade. But I've never actually gotten involved in the lore that much. I just like to go out and collect 30 million MacGuffins for the latest quest giver.
Well, I'm what's known as a lore whore.
I used to be pretty heavy with the lore, but I just kind of walked away and just started to enjoy just the questing and the gameplay itself,
Yeah.
But, I kind of want to change gears to a different game that's coming out that tickles my friggin' fancy, might we say. And Robbie showed this to me, and I was like, hi. Because I just, I'm guilty of it, but I just beat the very first Oddworld for the first time ever on stream, and I loved it. It was a blast. It was so fun to play.
It's fun to watch, too.
Exactly. Oddworld Soulstorm is now coming out. And from what I understand, Robbie, this is a retelling of the first game, or...
apparently it's a reimagining of the 1998 titled Oddworld Abe's Exodus.
Oh, so the sequel then.
Yeah, it seems to be.
Really now?
Yeah, they recently just released the first image of it, literally.
And it looks nice. It looks like it just looks pretty. That's the thing,
it looks cool, but like the animation on the website is freaking me out.
Yeah, because you go to the website, which is oddworld.com/Soulstorm. And Abe's looking, man, he's kind of creepy right now because he's got bloodshot eyes, huge. He's just staring at you as if he just took a huge rip off the bong, And
it's monotone. It's like it's black and white. It looks weird.
It's I've been trying to spend as little time on the front page as possible before scrolling down.
Now, is this a fan reimagining, or is this the original company trying to do a new game?
I don't know. Who was the original company again?
I want to say it was
Oddworld Inhabitants Incorporated. So yeah, it's them.
Yeah.
So it's them. It's the real guys. And honestly, when I played the second one, I kind of fell out because it felt a bit rushed. It felt like it was just a carbon copy of the first game graphically and control wise, just with a kind of an awkward story.
Yeah.
But with all hope, maybe obviously the graphics can be all redone. The controls can be all redone, which would be fantastic. Yeah. But maybe they'll alter the story just enough to make it seem original and interesting.
Polish it up a bit more.
Exactly. I'm stupidly excited for this.
It makes me wonder, because for those that don't know, the devs for this game, was Odyssey the first one? I honestly can't remember.
Games Odyssey, yes.
Yes, it was the first one.
Okay, so the devs for this game, when it came out, and it was pretty revolutionary in some weird ways for its time. It was a puzzle game, side-scrolling platforming puzzle game.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the revolutionary things is there were no lives. Now, that might sound like, well, a million games have no lives. But at the time, there weren't very many. Developers were still making games that had continues and lives and all this other stuff. And this game company said, we're doing away with all of that because it doesn't make sense. You're home, you're playing, there's no quarters involved. Just do it on your own terms. Now, their other plan was to do 5 games. They had like this grand scheme. We're going to make this entire story. It's going to involve this world. You're going to get to explore it more and blah, blah, blah. And unfortunately, money and time and a couple of choices of, we're just going to switch consoles even though you gave us all your money on this console, made it so that they just kind of drifted away.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if they're trying to restart their original concept now.
Yeah, because I remember when I was playing this one, I was talking to you, and you told me that they were supposed to release one last one for Xbox 360. And I was like, dude, why did they only do Xbox 360? Or they did do one for Xbox 360, right?
Yeah, they started on PlayStation 1.
Yeah. And
it wasn't exactly exclusive, but they didn't put it out on any other systems. And then when the 360 was coming out, they moved to the 360 for, I think, their third game. And a lot of fans like myself who didn't have the money or didn't care to spend the money to get a new console were like, well, screw you. I'm not going to buy your game.
Exactly.
According to the Wikipedia page for the Oddworld Wikia, Soulstorm was the original working title for Abe's Odyssey.
Really?
Yeah, and it was later used as a name for a glucon-made beverage in Exodus.
No kidding. That's cool, man.
So does that mean this is like... interesting.
The more you know.
Story elements that were cut from the original will be implemented in Soulstorm. So, I don't know. I never played Exodus, so...
Like I said, I played a bit of it. It was just awkward, It just didn't feel right at first.
Yeah.
But, oh, God, I'm excited for this. This seems like it'll be fun to me, at least.
Yeah, I'm interested to see how graphically it'll have changed.
Well, I know when I played the Odyssey and seeing how big it changed from the first time to the new and tasty version, that was insane. Everything felt right. The controls didn't feel just... In the first one, the Odyssey, it's a PlayStation 1 game. It's just rickety, but all the controls felt wrong. It felt loose or just felt a bit too tight at times. Shut up, Robbie. But it just felt wrong at times. Where I played the new and tasty, and it was perfect. Like I said, absolutely perfect. So there's hope for Soulstorm.
We hope.
We hope, man. We hope.
I'm looking forward to it, man.
Now, I know we, Rad, last week we brought you on for one specific reason. And then you just kind of became part of the stream, the show, which was awesome. But we should probably actually get to your subject once upon a time here. Am I right?
We're actually keeping Rad hostage.
You know, in that case, we're not allowed to talk about it for 3.5 weeks. No, but
did I not
pay
send
them
you
the
guys-
$1 million, please.
Did I not send you guys the contract to not talk about it?
That. Oh, that case.
It should have been a spam email.
Can we possibly get a mute on Rad real quick, please? No, but seriously, Rad, me and you were discussing this a little bit off air, and we talked about it's something that was near and dear to me, which was Sega, the rise and fall of Sega. Because we all know I'm a bit of a fanboy for Sega, and I'll admit that. But of course, I love Nintendo, but I loved Sega. That was my shit back when I was a kid, you know? Now,
Same here.
yeah, so I remember at one point in time, Sega actually outsold the Super Nintendo, right?
Yes, that is correct.
And I'm guessing that was probably the quote-unquote rise, or am I incorrect about this?
That was their highest point. I believe it was in 1991. For a few months, they outsold Super Nintendo.
When did the Super Nintendo even get released? I can't remember offhand.
The Super Nintendo, I believe, was early 91, I think.
So it was barely
say.
even out.
Yeah, but at that time, Nintendo had the Nintendo Entertainment System, the NES,
Good point.
which was by far and away the best-selling console on Earth at the time.
Yeah.
So
Not a whole lot of competition at the time either, though. I mean, let's face it, the TurboGrafx 16 was not exactly not exactly real competition.
Or
Yeah,
the one to go
and-
up against.
Sega did have an 8-bit console as well, but there's a reason why not very many people know of it. It was the Sega Master System.
Oh, the Master System. I always forget about it.
Exactly my point.
God, I never got the Sega Master System. I really always wanted to, just to say I had it in my collection, but that's about it, you know?
Yeah.
I had the I forget because like in some regions it's called the Genesis and others it's called the Mega Drive. I forget which one it was over here.
It was the Genesis in the States.
In the UK, I think it was Mega Drive in Europe. I remember.
Everybody else is Mega Drive.
Yeah, I remember having the game and having a built-in game. I think it was one of Sega's earlier mascots, Alex the Kid. I think was his name.
Alex Kidd, 2Ds.
Yeah, love that name. I mean, love that game. I also love that name.
I always felt like Nintendo kind of cornered the market on mascots back in the day, and Sega was always like trying too hard.
Yeah.
Well, I guess it really brought on that whole edgy point of view, too. Because remember how it was always like everything about Sega was super edgy compared to Nintendo, and Nintendo was just like, hi, I'm a family-friendly system.
Sega does what Nintendo don't.
Exactly.
Exactly.
You know? But, okay, so when we talk about the rise and fall of Sega, the rise was right before the SNES was released, when it was just the NES. That was the rise. That's when it was first released, and they finally got a chance to start going. And then came the Nintendo and just beat the hell out of it. What destroyed the Sega? What about Nintendo looked at the customer base and went, you know what? You don't want this. You want the Nintendo. You don't want that Sega thing over there.
Well, what would you say if I offered you a console with all the innovative, creative games? It has all the arcade ports you could ever want, and you can play online with it. What would you say if I offered you that?
I would say it sounds fantastic.
Sounds like the wave of the future.
Yeah.
Where do I sign?
Exactly, because all the consoles we have now, we play online with them. We can play with people all over the world with them. The console I'm referring to, of course, is the Sega Dreamcast.
Oh, I love the Dreamcast.
Oh yeah. The day it was first announced, I wanted one more than you could ever imagine. Now, the thing with the Dreamcast, you think, oh, Sega Dreamcast, isn't that the one that caused them to leave the console business? Actually, no, it wasn't.
Oh, wasn't?
Yeah. No, the Dreamcast was ahead of its time when it came out in 1999. Think about it. Sega thought of online play with other consoles in 1999. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, because they had like internet connectivity as well. Was that the Dreamcast?
Yes, it had a built-in modem, dial-up, of course, but the broadband modem was an option, was an accessory you could get for it.
Yeah,
and the next console that would even try to do that would be the Xbox in 2002. So go ahead. Sorry.
No, I said, was it just a bit too far ahead of its time then?
No, Sega's fate was sealed starting all the way back in 1994, 5 years prior.
Okay, lay it on me.
So, the year right now, it is 1991. You're first hearing about the Sega CD.
Yes.
At the Tokyo Game Show.
Yeah. I am currently 1991. I am currently 0 years old.
God, you guys are so young.
I wasn't even thought of in 91.
I was born at the end of 1990.
Jesus.
I was 15.
How old was I? Jesus. Stacy can't math right now. He's tired. I think I was like 8.
So the Sega CD is announced in 1991. In the United States, it comes out near the end of 1992. Now, Sega CD was a big revolution, big step forward, and here's a console that'll do CD-ROMs. It has 320 times the memory of a regular cartridge. So you get games with like full motion video, the FMV craze.
Oh yeah.
Or the problem was the Sega CD was not a standalone console. So all the consumers were getting confused over, do I need this? Or is my Genesis fine? Is it another console? Is it just an optional add-on? What is it? So it was a problem because of its high price and a very limited library of games. There wasn't very many people who bought it. And it was rendered obsolete basically a year later with the release of the 3DO.
I forgot about the 3DO. I completely forgot about that thing.
So the CD stuck around until it discontinued in 1996 to focus on the Sega Saturn. Now fast forward to 1994. Here we have the Sega 32X. This is supposed to be their new. Nice. The 32X is supposed to be its own. It's another new console for the Genesis. Yeah, it was supposed to be a Genesis replacement. However, because they weren't sure that the Saturn was going to be available by 1994, the 32X was converted into an add-on for the Genesis Mega Drive, and they rushed to meet the deadline, which is the end of 1994.
Which also, it should be noted, confused the market. I'm one of the confused. I saw the 32X and I was like, what is this?
Exactly. Sega split their market between the Genesis and the Saturn. The 32X was supposed to be, if people can't afford the Saturn, how will they get into the so-called 32-bit era? Yeah. They'll just buy the 32X. But then that means you are now competing with yourself when you come out with the Sega Saturn.
Exactly. I mean,
and
it just felt awkward. Like, I remember seeing this all these times, seeing the Sega CD, which, mind you, I loved. I loved the Sega CD. I loved the 32X, but why? Why would you do that and not just make a standalone console?
That's exactly it. because the 32X was rushed to meet the end of 1994. It means the games that were available for it were mostly ports, and they couldn't really utilize the 32X hardware very well. And so, again, that was also discontinued in 1996. That failed because, like I said, they split the market, didn't have a very good game library, and it was very poor timing considering it came out in Japan literally the day before the Sega Saturn.
Really?
Yes, November 21st, 1994 for the 32X. November 22nd, 1994 for the Sega Saturn.
I want to meet the guy in marketing. Like, I have a great plan, guys. Seriously.
It consists of aiming the gun at our foot and pulling the trigger.
Exactly. And even
I wonder if this will hurt.
Talk about confusing your audience.
Right?
Now, the Sega CD wasn't utilized very well because it didn't really add anything to Genesis games. So, 32X added a little more. You could play other newer games with it, but you still have the problem of both of those add-ons are going through mid-'80s technology, which is the Sega Genesis / Mega Drive.
Yeah.
So, and at the pace of technology back then, technology was moving extremely fast.
Yeah, it was like doubling everything every 6 months or something.
Pretty much. So late 80s technology is suddenly looking very outdated. So what does Sega do to prepare for the next generation? Oh, we're working on the Sega Saturn, which they started on in 1992. But it first wasn't shown until 1994 at the Tokyo Toy Show. This is where it gets really juicy. Now, the United States release of the Sega Saturn was announced in March of 1995.
Okay.
Everybody pay attention for Saturn Day, which is September 2nd, 1995. You get it? Saturday is a pun. However, Sega of Japan said, we need this console to launch early so we can beat the PlayStation to market.
Nice try.
So at the first E3 in May, Sega gets up there, and during their conference, they say, at these 4 retailers, you can buy the Sega Saturn immediately. However, they had contracts with probably 8 or 9 retailers to sell it. What happens when you only give a few of them the system early?
You're going to piss off the other retailers. This is how it works,
Exactly. You just set a world record for burning a number of bridges out at the same time. So, does anybody here remember KB Toys?
Oh, yeah, I remember them.
Yes, for those that don't know that are overseas or just don't know, KB Toys was a very large toy retailer in the United States. They had a location in pretty much every mall and shopping center in the country.
Basically, like the second biggest franchise toy store this side of Toys R Us.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much. As a response, KB Toys was not included in the buy the Saturn immediately. KB Toys dropped any and all Sega products from their stores until they went out of business in like the late 2000s. So suddenly you're locked out of the second biggest toy retailer in the country.
Feast meat table. It's
exactly. So the other retailers so what? You want me to wait another 6 months for you to give me the console that you're selling right now? Where's my market? The market that wants a console already has it.
Exactly.
So, and then to add the final nail to that, when the PlayStation was released in September 9th, 1995, the PlayStation retailed for $299 US. The Saturn retailed for $399 US.
I didn't think it was $100 more.
Yes, it was, but it came bundled with a Virtua Fighter.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, please, I need you to understand this game is worth $100. No, it wasn't. Oh my God, that was such a bad game.
So between May and September on the Sega Saturn, they only released 2 games.
They were trying to kill their system, I swear to Christ.
Sony sold more the PlayStation came out September 9th. Within 2 days, they had sold more consoles than Saturn had in 5 months.
And all because of one main game franchise, Madden, back in the early days.
Madden?
Exactly.
Really?
The PlayStation was a sports console, but yeah.
Now, the Saturn had other problems, like, okay, Saturn had a dual CPU setup, which theoretically means two-player game, I get one CPU, the other player gets the other CPU. That is very difficult to develop for, especially at that time. So most games just use a single CPU, like every other console. Also, what was the issue was games render in triangles. It was like the basic shape for most games is triangles. Saturn wanted to render in quadrilaterals. That's fine, but at the time, 94, 95, there were only about 8 people on the face of the earth who know how to render like that. And Sega doesn't have any of them.
What the hell were they thinking?
I've studied this many times over the years. I'd have no idea.
I think what they were thinking from an outsider perspective, and this is a consumer, because at the time I remember when they were releasing all this stuff, and it felt to me like it was 1 year after the next, they're releasing some brand new product. And as a consumer, I just was looking at my Super Nintendo and saying, okay, I could buy a new Sega CD and a 32X and a Dreamcast and a Saturn, or I could just stick with my Super Nintendo that is getting some amazing games, and it's like they were shooting themselves in the foot in every side of things.
That actually leads me into the next detail here. With a CD and 32X, Sega abruptly discontinued support for it. So many developers are saying, we have a lot of money invested in games for this add-on / new console / who knows what.
Yeah.
You're basically saying, you have to move everything to this new architecture that's completely different, so you have to build the same game twice. So many developers were saying, well, if they're gonna keep doing this, then why should we support their newest console? What's to stop them from doing it again? And so Sega did the exact same thing with the Saturn. In 1998, up to 3 years after it came out, it was discontinued. So if you're developing a game for it that's 80% done, sorry, you may as well have taken all that money and flushed it right down the toilet.
Jesus, man.
Meanwhile, over in Nintendo and PlayStation,
they're doing fine.
The N64 is coming out, and the Super Nintendo, which is technically going to be obsolete soon.
Yeah.
They're still developing first-party games for the Super Nintendo as the N64 is about to come out. So they know not to shoot themselves in the foot.
Exactly.
So that finally brings us up to the Dreamcast. Now, the Dreamcast was by far the most superior console available when it released in 98, 99. However, because of what Sega had done in the years previous, you alienate all your developers, you alienate your retailers.
You alienate your consumers.
Yep.
Exactly. All consumers are already confused. Like, wait, you just came out with a console like 2-3 years ago. Why should we get this new one right now? It wasn't the Dreamcast's fault that Sega left the console business. It was all their decisions before the Dreamcast. It wouldn't have mattered what console had come out, what the Dreamcast was capable of. It wouldn't have mattered. They were already done.
To me, it's amazing how just decisions down the road can affect a company that far down. You know what I mean? That's amazing to me. Something as simple as, let's make an add-on for this console instead of making a separate console, quite literally screwed them. How much further down the road, It's
5 years.
It's a bit mind-blowing and kind of sad because Sega really had a true future. Sega really could have taken over the market, but they killed themselves.
Ironically, when you mentioned the the add-ons.
Yeah.
Nintendo technically, I wouldn't say they shot themselves in the foot, but they definitely got real close when the PlayStation was developed.
Oh,
now,
yes, I remember hearing about this.
You may say to yourself, what do they have to do with the PlayStation? Well, back when the Sega CD came out, Nintendo got involved in trying to compete because obviously the console wars back in the 16-bit generation were intense.
Yeah.
And they worked with Sony to produce a add-on for the Super Nintendo that was basically going to do the same thing. It was going to be a CD functioning thing, 32 bits, blah, blah, blah. And once... I don't know if somebody at Nintendo saw that Sega was shooting themselves in the foot or if they just decided we don't want to do it. But 90% into the development of the Super Nintendo CD-ROM, they decided we don't want this anymore. And Sony was sitting there holding technology in their hands saying, what are we supposed to do with this?
Exactly. They were left with the bill.
And what they did with it was came out with both fists ready to go, and the PlayStation launched, I want to say about a year or two before the N64 or something.
The Nintendo 64 was, I believe, September of 1996. PlayStation was September of 1995.
Okay, so basically Nintendo, when they were working on their system, suddenly they had competition, and nobody thought anything of the Sony PlayStation initially.
Yeah.
They were like, oh, it's just another upstart. Nintendo's king. Until it wasn't. And people started to realize, well, and one of the biggest contenders to showing the power of the Sony system at the time was Squaresoft and the release of Final Fantasy VII.
Right.
Which, by the way, was, Squaresoft before that had been a Nintendo developer.
Oh, yes. They were very big with Nintendo. And then what happened was the Nintendo 64 cartridge was not big enough. They said, CDs, Square said, look, we love your system, but you just can't contain our next game. And when they came out with Final Fantasy VII, that's why they moved. They said, look, we're just moving to the next technology that we can, that we can use.
And I'm so glad they did, because even to this day, hell, I'm still playing Final Fantasy VII to this day, It's just one of those amazing games that was just, it set the precedent for games that came after it for generations,
Yep, pretty much.
Well, in gaming terms, generations is much shorter than in human terms, but that's besides the point. All right, well, actually, I wanted to get into something else real quick here, guys. As you know, we're all a little bit of comic book nerds when it comes around to it. Comic book movies are friggin' huge right now. Absolutely huge, right?
Did someone say comic books?
What's that, sorry?
I would...
Did someone say comic books?
Robbie's just like, my ears perked up. I'm here.
His ears have been burning.
Turn off the porn. So, I'm here.
No, but comic book movies are huge. They're really. I'm actually really impressed, even to this day, exactly how well they sell. Even with people who couldn't care less about comic books. Yeah, I mean.
Comic book movies are doing fantastic. Comic books are not doing as well.
That's because nobody reads, and comic books are still using old market concepts.
Yeah.
Like what old market concepts? Like the whole, what's it called? Edgy comics? Is that what you mean?
Just literally just selling them in stores on paper still.
Okay.
I mean, they are starting to go more digital copies, but it's still, there's a lot of buying in comic book stores.
I don't understand why they won't transition. It just seems like a common sense thing to do. Is like, okay, this is the new market. I can get into this about radio too, since I used to work in radio and their refusal to transition to the internet. But we'll kind of stick with comic books for right now. But why is it they refuse to transition? It just seems like it's common sense.
I think it's like complacency mainly.
Also, they're let's face it, old, and people that are old tend not to adopt the new things.
Stacy.
Fuck you. I'm sorry, what? Unfortunately, I do understand what you're saying. It's a bad stereotype, but unfortunately, it's true stereotype,
Yeah.
Why is it they're so damn successful when they're brought to the screen, but not successful on the book?
Well, I mean, it's a lot more accessible movies. I mean, movies in general hit a wider audience than comics do. Like, comics are just for, like, how do I put this? Comics, unless you're like me and read like a lot of small press and independent comics, the mainstream comics hit like particular audience, like comics, like geeks, nerds, and like the like. Where movies have always hit a much wider audience of general movie goers, if you're a fan of horrors and all that. So, kind of putting comics into that, there's already that wider public audience there that will like take a look at it.
Well, I mean, it's just that, that stereotype of like, the quote unquote nerd, quote unquote geek reads the comic books. I would never read that, but they'll gladly go see the comic book movie. So I guess it's less why, because obviously it's reading. I get that. But I mean, like, why is it okay to be a quote unquote nerd and watch a nerd movie, but not read a quote unquote nerd book, I guess?
Well, to be fair, I would say that there's been a shift in the viewpoint of nerds and jocks and all of that stuff.
Yes, definitely.
Looking, a great example, if you've ever seen the movie 21 Jump Street, it's about two guys that don't really look like they belong in high school, going back to high school. It's a funny movie. You should totally see it. But when these two guys were in high school, it was very much the 80s model, maybe even 90s and earlier, where the jocks were reigning supreme and they made fun of the nerds and they beat up the nerds. But when they go back to high school in the modern era, people are politically correct. Like, even the kids in the school, they're all, nerds are just nerds. They're just another group.
Okay.
The jocks are smart. Nobody really, and this is an unrealistic interpretation, but take another TV example, the Big Bang Theory.
Yeah, that thing.
Oh,
now, whatever your opinions on the show might be, and most people hate it.
I love he's like, listen, Stacey, shut up.
It is proof positive that the nerd dynamic has shifted to where people are embracing it.
It's become much more mainstream.
Yeah. So combine that with the fact that comic book movies are actually good now. And I mean, on every level, the writing, the special effects, the acting. Oh, yeah. People are taking them seriously in movie.
Well, they're good if you're Marvel.
Well, yeah, okay.
Yeah,
I concede that DC
shaft.
movies are not very good unless you're Christopher Nolan.
Although DC TV is fantastic.
So my big question is...
We'll talk about that later.
Aren't the comic movies starting to become more complex as a whole compared to the comics?
No, the comics are still way more complex. The movies are getting there. Especially with the fucking X-Men continuity. God damn.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Okay. Now that we're on to that. Robbie, I need your help.
What do you need my help with?
Okay, one moment. They're the X-Men, and then, it's X-Men 2, and then X-Men 3, and then X-Men Origin comes out about Wolverine. And all of a sudden, we're back to being kids again, and then all of a sudden, Wolverine actually gets old, apparently. What the hell is going on? I'm so confused.
Okay, so basically, there were the first three X-Men films. those were like the ones with Patrick Stewart as Professor X.
Wait, he's not the professor anymore?
No, it's James McAvoy now. It's playing a
See what happens when you walk away from this? You'd look like an idiot like me talking on a podcast.
It's the same Professor X, but James McAvoy is playing a younger version of him.
Okay.
The new movies take place in like this. I think it's the 60s, 70s, and 80s.
Yeah, see, and that's part of the problem is they take place in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, but the actors have not aged 20 years, so it's like, wait a minute.
Yeah, I mean, also there's that like it's hard because there's the inconsistent continuity. Like in the original 3 X-Men films, there's a scene where Charles Xavier is walking around, but it's Patrick Stewart, and then in the new X-Men, he gets paralyzed as the young James McAvoy.
Wait, what? No, come on.
Yeah, it's like the idea that in the second movie, like the first 3 films lead up to Days of Future Past, the future where Sentinels have basically taken over and have killed all the mutants, and then Wolverine gets time travel back in time.
Oh, that so didn't make any sense, but
yeah, by Kitty Pryde, who now can't run through walls and can time travel people by their mind. But yeah, so in the second new X-Men film, the time traveling made it so that I think it was the last X-Men film, X-Men 3, didn't happen.
Okay, see, and this is where it gets super confusing because being an X-Men comic book reader
starts to get super confusing, dude. I'm already lost.
So, being an X-Men comic book reader, you start to see the confusion right away in the comics, in the paper comics, because there's so much time travel and space travel and dimension travel and weird intermingling between the characters that it's so complex. And one of the things I liked about the first few X-Men movies is that because it was a movie, they had done away with all of that. You know, they had made it more condensed and more acceptable. But after, what are we up to, like 9 or 10 movies now? It's even more complex than the comics now.
So can we at least confirm that Patrick Stewart obviously is Jesus if he was able to walk in a second X-Men movie, but not in the as his younger self, but in the true younger one on the silver screen as the young X-Men or whatever it's called, obviously was paralyzed.
Are you? Sorry, go ahead.
Kind of gets complex too because even in the comics, he's walked and not walked many, many times.
Yeah.
Oh God, Marvel, why do you do this to me?
One of the things I like is in the comics currently, they have the original X-Men team. They pulled the original X-Men team from the past to the future. So now it's the current X-Men existing alongside their younger counterparts at the same time.
What?
Yeah.
Okay, okay, here's the real question. Has the X-Men franchise, as far as movies go, officially jumped the shark?
Yes and no. And it depends on your perspective. Yes, they jumped the shark when they tried to reboot the universe with First Class, but didn't because it was set in the 60s and it didn't really reboot anything.
Yeah.
But no, because Deadpool was freaking awesome.
Oh, yeah.
True. I suppose that is still technically X-Men universe, huh?
I mean,
technically, yeah.
But this is the problem. You've got the original 3 movies, X-Men 1, X-Men 2, and whatever they called X-Men 3.
Last Stand.
Then you've got the younger versions with First Class, Days of Future Past, and
Apocalypse.
That's it.
The thing with me is... Sorry.
Then you've got the Wolverine movies, which tie into both Days of Future Past and the originals, but one of them is technically non-existent, like X-Men Origins is considered non-existent now.
I should hope so.
Good God.
And then you have Deadpool. So they've got 4 continuities, 2 of which are intermingling but not intermingling. Which one is right?
I don't know. I don't know which one supersedes the other.
I would say Deadpool, just because Deadpool.
I would agree.
And in my total opinion, being obsessed with X-Men, I find Future Past kind of really it killed it for me, because there was no preface to what's going on, unlike every other movie that they've done, where it's been like, oh, this is going to happen, or this might happen, but we don't know. In Future Past, it was just boom, action, story, failed story, action, done.
Well,
I like that. Failed story, action, done.
And that kind of gets into the problem, because the only lead-in to Days of Future Past, especially after First Class, because it's the same actors playing half the roles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Days of Future Past requires you to watch the Wolverine. Because at the end of the Wolverine, they lead into Days of Future Past directly. I mean, Professor X, spoilers, at the end of the Wolverine, Professor X walks up to Logan and says, "Logan, we need your help." And then they don't do anything with that in Days of Future Past. It's just a given that you've seen the end credit scene in the Wolverine.
So I'm wondering now. Is Logan? Does Logan take place in the new future that was created, or is it's still its own timeline there?
From what I know, the creator, the writers of Logan say it's a one-off.
So it's its own universe, like old man Logan was.
Okay.
Yeah.
They're making a 5th universe then.
Well, the main thing for Logan is it's a way to have one last ride with Hugh Jackman and Patrick Stewart.
Right, which have been the focal points of all of the movies so
exactly.
far.
Yeah. And then it just kind of goes from there.
And there's New Mutants, which is apparently coming out soon. No, not soon, but it's in the works.
I'm just
now I have
confused, man.
And this again, this leads to the confusion of the X-Men universe. I've heard that the New Mutants are going to have references to Deadpool and vice versa. So where does Deadpool fit?
Why, man? Fucking why?
Spoiler. In the Deadpool movie, they do kind of show the Institute, and
the doorway.
Yeah.
Well, they showed the outside view, and then the plane taking off.
Yeah.
That's
weird.
really...
It seems like they could only afford 2 X-Men. Weird.
Yeah,
I love that one.
I just love that Deadpool brings attention to the confusing timelines, where he says, Colossus says, "I'm bringing you to Professor X," and he goes, "Which one, Stewart or McAvoy? These timelines are confusing."
Now, and I think that's what sets Deadpool apart, is that the great thing about Deadpool being fourth wall breaking and everything is that he could potentially exist in any of the X-Men movies. Like, it doesn't matter which one. So
there. And he can also bridge them together too, just because of his ability to break the fourth wall.
Yeah. I mean, if you think about it... Sorry, go ahead. If you think about it, really, Deadpool kind of takes... If you think about it, Deadpool takes position after, I want to say, when Logan comes in, the very first movie that he comes in with X-Men. I find it kind of comes in... Deadpool as a whole comes in kind of after that, because the way his storyline is, it's kind of, this is what happens to me, but at the same time, you don't know when this exactly happened.
Right.
True.
But early in the movie, it's just, boom, there's the X-Men.
Very true.
And that leads to the question. Now, Wolverine has been a part of the X-Men franchise in the movies since the first one in '98.
Yeah.
And he's been even in Deadpool, Hugh Jackman is present. So if it's true, because there's been a lot of talk that Logan is going to be the last Hugh Jackman Wolverine. He's said he's done. They said we're done with him. You know, do they then recast Wolverine, or do they use Deadpool as the stand-in? Like, does he become the new in every movie?
What I heard was that once Hugh Jackman's finished, they're going to move on to X-23's Wolverine.
Really?
But does anybody care about X-23?
I've never heard of that.
Well, okay, the hardcore, like, obsessors of this, like, this is awesome, are going to love it, but, you know, is the common audience going to be like, they're going to go, what? We want the guy that looks identical to Wolverine. We want that one, you know?
Yeah, I mean, they basically did it in the comics where they kind of killed Wolverine off by encasing him in adamantium. And so it...
Encase him in himself!
basically, yeah. And
For
then...
those potential non-nerds listening, adamantium is a non-existent metal that is stronger than anything.
Oh, no, it totally exists in my heart.
and my penis.
Stacy, we know your heart is as cold as steel.
That's why it's encased in adamantium.
Exactly.
Yeah, basically after that, X-23 basically took over as Wolverine, even going as far as to wear the Wolverine costume. And then
Which
currently... the yellow and blue
The stereotypical
one?
one?
The one from the 90s cartoon.
Okay, so stereotypical one. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, and then now there's X-23 as Wolverine, plus Old Man Logan from the Old Man Logan universe is with the X-Men as well, for some reason.
This is going to be exciting to see, but at the same time, it's I don't know if they'll ever be able to get past... We want the old Wolverine. We want the guy that looks identical to Wolverine. Because could they have found anybody who looked any more like Wolverine from the comic book? Seriously.
Yeah. It's like Robert Downey Jr. and Tony Stark.
Exactly, man. Exactly.
So hard to separate the two.
If you're a hardcore fan, you might have been like me and said, Hugh Jackman is like 6'3" or 4 or something. He's tall.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
really short.
Wolverine is like 5'3".
Okay,
Now,
well, you know what? You got me there. You absolutely got me there.
As soon as I saw the movie, I accepted it because, oh my god, he's totally Wolverine.
Yeah.
Can
But
you imagine Wolverine if he sounded like really Canadian?
what do you mean, eh?
Hey, how you doing there,
know what
bud? You
you're
want to go
talking
for
about.
a fucking rip while you go sharpen my claws there, eh? Shit.
He would have to apologize every time he killed someone.
And there goes all of our Canadian audience.
Well, I think you better leave, dude.
Sorry, bub, I'm about to kill you.
God, wow.
My terrible Canadian accent.
God damn.
Hey, bud, want to
Undead.
have a rip before I kill you?
Hey, Undead, we're sorry. We've been making fun of you this whole time. But it's,
No, it's
it's
fine.
just payback because I'm from America and you guys make fun of me all day long. So deal with it, man.
Minnesota's basically Canada, anyways.
Shut up. Don't conjoin me to those people.
I'm from the UK, making the world hate us as a national sport.
I thought that was the U.S.'s job.
Exactly. Hey. Anyway. Okay, so another thing I really, really, really want to get onto about comic book movies, because there's two subjects I want to. The first one, though, is Deadpool, because you guys know how much I love the Deadpool franchise, both the comic books, the movie, the video game. It was so perfect. And you also remember how offended I was when I saw that Deadpool, that thing they tried calling Deadpool.
I don't remember. What are you talking about, Stacey?
Yeah, exactly. We've all wiped it from our memory, man.
I don't know. There's only one Wolverine movie, so I don't know what you're talking about.
But, okay, one of the biggest things that pissed me off about the movie was the fact that they left out the multiple personalities. The schizophrenia.
Okay, but
Yeah.
how do you do that in 2 hours
How
without? You know what I mean? Like,
Do
you have to. you have to focus on one element, or else it gets convoluted.
That I do understand, but look at the video game, man.
Would you have different voices, or would you have Ryan Reynolds doing different?
Ryan Reynolds doing, but just different tones himself and different accents.
I mean, to be honest, if you think about it, him breaking the fourth wall can technically be classed as them touching on the schizophrenia.
Good, because remember, Klaus saying, "You know, I'm right here, right? I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to them." Good
Now,
point.
I would like to point out that I remember the first appearance and first stories of Deadpool, and he was not cool at all. He was generic. No. He was boring. He was stupid.
He was an asshole.
He was a Deathstroke ripoff.
Yep, yes,
yep,
exactly. And he was. And the problem that I had before I even saw the movies is that I got out of comics, out of reading most comics, right before. Like maybe a year before somebody else took over writing Deadpool and made him awesome. So when I went to see the Deadpool movie, I was...
You're like, what happened?
I actually thought, and you're going to crucify me, but I actually thought that the interpretation of Deadpool in Wolverine Origins was accurate to his beginning.
Okay, guys, we need to get the gun. Where do you live again? I know you're somewhere down south, man.
That being said, it was terrible, but I just was, I thought, oh, well, I guess that makes sense. Now, having seen the Deadpool movie, I can't stand Wolverine Origins anymore.
Yeah. It's just, okay, I know I'm harping on it so much, but I think that the multiple personalities added so much to his character. It really did. Because he was able to carry on dialogue by himself and carry an entire scene by himself without needing any other characters. It could be literally him talking to himself and arguing with himself the entire time, and it was brilliant. It was absolutely brilliant.
Actually,
I would picture it, yeah.
I would actually disagree that multiple personalities was not needed for his film version.
Really?
Yes. Because I believe multiple personalities, the thing you were mentioning,
yeah,
I think it works fantastic for comics and the printed page. Where you can advance the story by talking to yourself. Now, in the movie, he does that by talking with the audience.
True.
Oh my God! That just made me realize we are his alternate personalities.
Exactly.
Yep.
Well, I mean, look at the video game, though. I don't know how many of you guys have played the Deadpool video game.
I watched you play it, and that's about it.
I've only watched
it on YouTube
streams.
I loved it. I thought it was fantastic because of the multiple personalities were one of the things that really made it awesome. I mean, it was at points it got to be really generic where they were like, okay, we don't know what to do, so let's just throw in a whole bunch where he's have to fight, 20 waves at once, and against all odds, he shouldn't be able to beat all these things. It was just really dumb at times. But the storyline and the dialogue made it fun. Yeah, I mean?
Yeah. I think it would have been funny to have him, like, in the middle of a fight, kind of zone out and start talking to his alternate personalities. And then, like, when we come back, he's just, like, stabbing a guy in the head, and he just snaps out of it again. What were you saying?
See, that would have been great for the movie. See, that's what I'm kind of pointing out. That's why I think it would have been fucking fantastic and brilliant for the movie.
Now, there's no reason to think that they won't do something with that in the sequel.
Sure, yeah.
I only reason I think they wouldn't is because of PC and they're scared to, upset people,
Well, like going into mental health issues, like multiple personalities?
Exactly.
Yes.
Well, look at Me, Myself, and Irene, how much flack that got.
Yeah, but Me, Myself, and Irene was trying to be like, a comedy about multiple personalities, whereas if they did anything with it, and they do it well, let's hope, in the sequel to Deadpool, it would just be the next level of his character,
Okay, good point.
Yeah, it's further descent into insanity.
Which, let's face it, we don't know how long he was in that hospital getting turned into Deadpool, so who knows what happened to him.
That's a great point. They speak about roughly how long it's been, but they don't, because at the same time you don't know how long he's been tracking people down. They don't actually say an exact date. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
As a fun side note to Deadpool, he actually was not the first character to break the fourth wall as far as Marvel Comics. That honor actually goes to She-Hulk. She was the original, break the fourth wall character.
really?
That feels weird.
Yes, and then
That's a character I'd love to see in the movies.
Right?
Oh yeah. So that suit.
yeah.
Robbie.
Then because Deadpool didn't do very well, they kind of moved it over to Deadpool. So there's your random fact of the day.
Because Deadpool didn't do very well. They what?
Well, for some there was a reason they moved that
you mean the
character
breaking
trait
the fourth
over to
wall?
Deadpool
I'm
instead.
sorry. I thought you meant the movies. I'm like, Rad, are you okay? Okay, that makes so much more sense. I'm sorry, dude.
I'm perfectly fine. It's just the voices in my head that won't shut up.
Good God. But okay,
Don't call us that.
Fourth wall break within a fourth wall break.
that's like
16 walls.
oh man, you guys make some very, very, very convincing arguments about it, and I hate admitting that you're right, that maybe it's not needed anymore. I really hate that because I love it so much. But, this brings me another thing about comic book movies is we're talking about it, we're loving it, but we're also bitching about it as in the X-Men movies as we're getting burnt out on it. Are we, as a viewership of movies, are we getting burnt out on the comic book movie? Is it time for it? Is it getting close for the time to end, or is it still at its peak? What do you guys, or has it not reached its peak yet?
Well, I would say from my own personal perspective that I don't think I could ever get burnt out on them as long as they remain good. Like,
exactly.
Yeah, the same.
Yeah.
Like every time there's a new Marvel movie, I'm crossing my fingers that this isn't the one that turns the whole ship around.
Yeah. See, that's the thing is...
Sounds like me and Batman going, come on, be the one that turns it around. Be the one.
That's the thing is... We're all comic book and comic book movie fans, obsessors, if I can say that.
Yeah.
But what I'm thinking is, what about the community that isn't a part of the comic book obsessors? The group that just watch the
general
movies
public.
because they're just movies to watch. They look cool.
The ones that have only seen like Civil War and the first Avengers and maybe one of the Iron Man.
Yeah,
Exactly.
The kind of people that have like they only watch the movies and they don't realize that Thanos has a brother.
Now, here's where you guys are going to think
Thanos
I'm
has a
really
brother?
weird.
Oh yeah, he's
Go ahead.
weird because he has like, if I remember right, he has a power that makes a superpower that makes people aroused.
Whoa.
Wait, what?
Whoa, what?
Hold the phone. Here's our new topic.
You know what? I think I made a mistake not getting as heavily into Marvel as I did DC. Let's talk.
That's for off air, Stacy. Unless you want to do, an R-rated podcast.
Oh, isn't every friggin' podcast R-rated with us?
Ladies and gentlemen, get your shots ready.
Oh, Jesus.
We're returning to our drinking game.
Yeah, his name's Star Fox of all things. He's like this red-headed superhero, and he has psychic control over emotions of others.
Okay.
And he's a bit of a hound dog, as this picture with She-Hulk clearly shows.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my God. Jesus. I see what you mean. I think I have some reading to do, guys, if you'll excuse me.
Stacy will be in his bunk.
But here's what you guys think I'm weird with, because you guys were talking about people who just go to see movies just to see them. I have a hard time seeing that point of view because I don't go to see movies. I almost never see movies, to tell you the truth. Only reason I've gone to see, the X-Men, or at least saw them when they were at home, at very least, or gone to see Deadpool at the theaters, because I know them. Same with Batman, because I know those movies. I know the comics. I know the games, stuff like that. I knew the cartoons. That's the only reason I went to go see it. Otherwise, I would have never gone to see them in the theaters. Am I that much of a rarity?
No.
I don't know.
I mean, I've gone to the movies to see all the newer, like, Star Wars movies and stuff like that, but
Yes, same.
for Marvel movies, I usually just wait, or comic movies, period, I usually just wait for them to come out on DVD.
See, I'm the exact opposite. I pretty much only watch like the like Star Wars, Star Trek, the comic book movies in the theater.
I'm exactly the same way, yeah.
The only ones I'm not going to see in the theater anymore are the DC ones, but that's because they're not really very good.
I didn't watch.
You're tearing down my hope for myself, man. Come on.
I didn't see Suicide Squad in the theater, and I don't know if I'm ever gonna buy it on DVD.
Yeah.
But as it comes to like superhero movies and getting burnt out on them, I'm really not. I mean, I'm loving what they're doing, what Marvel's doing right now, and I'm hoping that DC gets their act together soon.
I think that if looking at it from a different perspective, rather than looking at the whole genre of comic book movies as getting burnt out, I think that I understand where some general moviegoers might get the idea of being burnt out on comic book movies, because they see all kinds of movies, and there's like 6 comic book movies coming out every year just from the big guys. There's a few independent movies that might be comic book related. But from my perspective, being a comic book fan, if they continue to remain at least decent, and I would say that the Marvel Universe is the perfect example. There's some great movies in there, there's some good movies, and there's some
Trash.
Good, passable. There's not trash, there's just passable movies.
Have you seen Wolverine Origins? That's all I'm saying, man. Trash.
Well, no, I'm talking about the Disney ones.
Oh, okay, sorry.
The
I
Marvel
apologize.
Cinematic Universe.
They have not. Doing.
Yeah, they have not made what I would consider a bad movie.
Okay.
Yet.
Agreed.
I totally
and if they can somehow magically continue that, I'm never going to get burnt out on them. I just want more.
My hopes is that they manage to make decent movies up to like Infinity War or whatever the fourth one's going to be called, just so they have that first like story wrapped up.
Yeah,
just for like a bit of completion's sake, and then I would love for them to continue to make awesome movies after that. Now I just want them to reach that milestone.
Exactly. Now, if comic book movies as a whole continue to take the route that the DC movies have, then there's definite fatigue, because I'm already worried about Wonder Woman, and that should be a slam dunk.
Actually, ironically, talking about Justice League, I have a list here of 15 comic book movies coming out 2017.
Dude, lay them on us.
15! Wow.
Yeah. The very first one is Justice League Dark. DC Universe animated original movies.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah,
that's oh god, what's his name? The magic guy, Constantine.
It's rated R. I'll just leave it at that.
Okay. Now, going back to Deadpool, that is an unfortunate byproduct of what Deadpool did. Deadpool proved to Hollywood that is very nearsighted that, we can make rated R movies. But what they aren't learning is, yes, you can, but the content still has to be there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You can't just throw a bunch of nudity or swear words at the screen and say, that's what everybody wants. No, we want what Deadpool gave us, which was the story, the pathos, the fourth wall breaking.
Exactly.
The substance that we as movie consumption expect in an R-rated movie, on top of like not even so much the nudity, the swearing and all that. It's I watch R-rated movies because I want the story. Yeah. That's all I care about.
Exactly.
Right.
I could care less if they throw a pair of tits or
I've seen enough.
A couple swear words at me.
I see. I've seen enough tits in my life. I could deal with all the tits. I want the storyline. I don't want it constrained because of a few swear words. That's why I don't mind it being rated R. Yeah, I mean?
Exactly, and that's where Deadpool worked because he is a rated R character. Theoretically, he might even be rated X, but
depends on which approach you take, really.
but
rated Weapon X.
Oh,
boo!
Ladies and gentlemen, boo this man.
Get a pitchfork.
If you're watching it, just stand up and just boo.
So if Hollywood would learn the right lessons, we might get some great stuff. Unfortunately, they put out R-rated Killing Joke and R-rated Dark Justice League and R-rated everything. I believe the new Logan movie is going to be rated R. Which
Yes,
the Wolverine movies should have been rated R from the beginning, so they weren't constrained. But that's
about the Wolverine movies. It's a bit confusing about the titles. Like with going from X-Men Origins Wolverine to Wolverine or the Wolverine and then to Logan. You think the regular viewing public would know that there's supposed to be 3 movies?
The regular viewing public doesn't know they are 3, and I think that might be intentional because the Wolverine movies have been a little bit divisive.
So for those of you, Stacey, who are kind of questioning the Logan movie, on this website that I'm looking at, it says Logan is based on the Old Man Logan comics from the Marvel Universe, depicting and on his past rope Wolverine, who is humanity's best remaining hope in the last apocalyptic future.
Yeah, as in based on Old Man Logan. Basically, they mean it's Old Man Wolverine, and that's basically the only similarities as to the comic.
Yeah, that's because they can't make it similar because half the characters are owned by other people. Because I think Captain America and Spider-Man and a bunch of others were in Old Man Logan.
No, I don't think Captain America and Spider-Man weren't. They had the Spider-Mobile. Hawkeye was, and the Red Skull and the Hulk that I remember. They also had the Spider-Man car, the Spider car, whatever the hell that was.
I forgot about that thing.
Yeah, Hawkeye drove it, even though he was blind. Which I thought was funny. I thought if they wanted to do that, they could have replaced the characters with things like if they wanted, they could have replaced blind Hawkeye with a blind Cyclops, and maybe replace the Red Skull as the villain with Mr. Sinister or something.
I have a suspicion, and this is based on all the movies to date, that whatever the story is in Logan, the movie, it's going to revolve around Patrick Stewart and Hugh Jackman. Because X-Men 1 revolved around them, X-Men 2 revolved around them, X-Men 3 revolved around... Basically, every time they're in a movie, they just revolve the entire story around those two characters.
Pretty much, yeah. Stacey, yes. I don't know if I sent you to Old Man Logan to read, did I?
Yes, I haven't got a chance. I haven't had friggin' time to sit down for 30 seconds, unfortunately.
Yeah, but the story behind Logan in that one is really heart-wrenching. Really? I'm not going to spoil it. I'm not going to spoil it for you, but it's a bit of a shocker.
I've got to check this out now. I absolutely have to.
Definitely.
Now, just real quick, because I know we're pretty lengthy into this, guys, so we got to wrap up the show. But I want to say something I know is going to piss everybody off instantly. First off, Killing Joke, knockout movie.
Alternate opinion.
I don't know.
Enough said.
I've never heard of it.
It's an awesome flick. I thought Killing Joke was killer. I had a chance to go see it in theaters when it was that limited release for the 2 days in the theaters. The 1 day in theaters. It was absolutely amazing. I thought it was worth every cent to go see in the theaters. I walked away mind blown. I loved it. Absolutely loved it. They did deviate from the graphic novel a little bit, but it was awesome.
I like the graphic novel. I just don't think it worked quite as well as a movie. I don't know.
I admit they had some issues, but if it wasn't for Mark Hamill and Kevin Conroy, that movie would have died. And also Tara Strong, that movie would have died. Plain and simple. But it was awesome. It was amazing, and I think that movie was perfect. Absolutely what I wanted out of it. And as far as it goes for Suicide Squad, the movie, the actual live-action movie, I forgot it was a comic book movie. I would say easily 15 minutes, 30 minutes into it. At
The less said
most
about
30.
it, the better.
It was pathetic. I was very disappointed because I was expecting so much from it, and I just got so little from it. But if anybody is listening and you're going, I really want a good Suicide Squad movie. It's a cartoon, it's an animated movie, but it's still a movie, and it was amazing.
I know the one you're talking about.
It's
Assault on Arkham.
Thank you, Assault on Arkham. Awesome. Drop dead awesome. I mean, this will knock you on your ass. That's how perfect it was.
It's basically what Suicide Squad should have been.
Exactly. That's what I was expecting. When I was watching this movie, the whole time I was like, where's this Assault on Arkham? Arkham. This is what it needs to be, you know? But yeah, all right, guys. So now that I've fully offended everybody by saying that Killing Joke was amazing, unfortunately, it's time for us to wrap up the show. Robbie, Casual, Rad, Undead, thank you for coming back and not like go to hell, Stacy. We don't like you anymore.
Well, we can't leave, so.
My liking you has nothing to do with anything.
Yeah.
Seriously.
I'm chained to this desk.
Shh, we're supposed to tell him.
Call the police!
Once again, guys, thank you so much for swinging in. Thank you very much for listening. Robbie, Casual, all you guys, thank you so much for being with me. I had a friggin' blast, and can we do this again next Saturday?
Hell yeah.
Are we going to do this every Saturday from now on?
Hell yes.
Till the day we die.
Ow! Oh, God, don't tell me that, please.
For Stacy, that's coming near future. I mean, what?
Your whore mouth. I love you guys. We've been the Odd Pod. I'm Stacy Kruger. Go ahead, boys.
I'm Kevin Gallenged.
Rad Hazard saying so long.
I'm Robbie, and I love you.
Undead, and I'll see you guys later.
Take care, guys.